Let me show you something that completely changed how I look at trading forever. Most people come into trading thinking the goal is simple: make a big win, catch one big move, turn a small account into something massive overnight, but that's a fantasy. That's what gets shown online, and that's exactly why most traders struggle for years. Because professional traders don't think in huge wins, they think in something far more powerful, and that's compounding. And once you actually understand compounding properly, you start to realize something most beginners never accept. You don't need huge returns to build serious wealth in trading. In fact, chasing huge returns usually destroys accounts. It's the small, consistent gains, repeatable over time, that create the best results. But here's the problem: most people never experience compounding at all, not because it doesn't work, but because they never stay in the game long enough for it to actually matter. So let's break this down properly. So compounding is very simple in theory. It just means that you earn returns on your previous returns. Your profits start generating profits of their own. So let's say you start with a $10,000 account. If you grow it by just 3% in a month, it's now 10,300. Nothing crazy so far, but here's where most people miss the point. The next month, the same 3% isn't calculated on the $10,000 anymore. It's calculated on the 10,300. So your gain is slightly bigger. And then that repeats. Month after month, the base grows. And as the base grows, the gains grow. And as your gains grow, the base grows even faster. And this is why compounding is not linear. It doesn't just grow in a straight line. It starts slow, almost painfully slow, and then it begins to accelerate. And this is exactly why most traders quit before they even see it at work. Because in the beginning, it feels like nothing is happening. You're putting in the effort, you're taking trades, you're being disciplined, but the account doesn't move in a way that feels exciting. So people start forcing results, they increase their risk, they try to speed things up, they start chasing big wins. And that's usually where the damage begins, because compounding only works when the foundation is stable. Let's look at a simple example. Imagine a $10,000 account growing at 3% per month. After 1 year, it's at around $14,000. Nothing life-changing, but steady. After 5 years, it's roughly at $60,000. And after 10 years, it can reach around $350,000. Nothing about the strategy has changed. There's no huge wins, there's no lucky trades, no perfect timing, just consistency and time. And that's what compounding actually is. But here's the part that destroys most traders. Large losses completely break the process, because compounding is extremely sensitive to drawdown. If you lose just 10% of your account, you don't need 10% to recover, you need more. If you lose 50%, you don't just recover halfway. You need 100% to get back to break even. And the deeper the drawdown gets, the more impossible recovery feels. So even if your strategy is good, one period of over-risking can erase months or even years of progress. And that's why professional traders are obsessed with risk control. They're not trying to avoid losses. They're trying to keep losses small enough so that compounding stays intact. Because compounding doesn't just rely on winning, it relies on survival. Now here's something most beginners misunderstand completely. They think professionals focus on very high returns, but they really don't. Professionals focus on annual percentages, not single trades, not daily profits. Long-term stable growth, because a trader growing at 15 to 30% per year consistently is doing extremely well in the professional world. But beginners often try to turn a $1,000 account into 10,000 within a month. And that mindset forces them into oversized risk, which destroys consistency, which destroys compounding. Now imagine two traders. Trader A tries to aggressively double their account every year. Big risk, big swings, and big emotions. Whereas Trader B focuses on steady growth, small controlled risk, consistency every month. At first, Trader A looks like they're winning. Big spikes, faster growth. But over time, something interesting happens. Trader A hits drawdowns, big ones. Recovery slows everything down, emotional decisions start to creep in, whereas Trader B keeps going quietly, consistently, without any drama. And after a few years, Trader B often ends up ahead, not because they were smarter, but because they stayed consistent long enough for the compounding to actually work. And there's another powerful layer to this. As your account grows, your position size naturally scales. If you're risking 1% of a $10,000 account, that's $100. But if your account grows to 20,000, that same 1% becomes $200. You didn't change the strategy, you didn't change or increase your risk, but your profits scale automatically. That's the hidden engine behind long-term trading growth. And it only works if you survive long enough to see it play out. Which brings the real challenge. Compounding is simple mathematically, but extremely difficult psychologically. Because in the early stages, it feels too slow. You want to accelerate immediately. You want visible progress. You want excitement. But compounding rewards patience, not urgency. And most traders can't tolerate the gap between effort and reward. So they interrupt the process. They overtrade. They overrisk. They abandon systems too early. And every time they do that, they reset the compounding back to zero. So here's the real lesson. Trading success is not about finding the fastest way to grow. It's about protecting your ability to keep growing. Because once compounding starts working properly, it becomes self-reinforcing. Small gains turn into large wins, and large gains turn into real momentum, and momentum turns into exponential growth. But only if you stay in the game long enough for that to unfold. And that's the part nobody wants to hear. You're not rewarded for intensity. You're rewarded for consistency over time. So if you take anything from this, take this. Your job is not to maximize returns on every trade. Your job is to protect your account long enough for compounding to do its job. Because in trading, the real edge isn't perfection, it's patience.